Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. I urge everyone, especially whites, Jews, and LGBT people, to comment and try to contact me. They make it hard. Sometimes they suppress comments. They make it so that I get hacked on my phone when I get text and I click on the text. Quite often, even if it's not from some kind of spam or something, even when it's just from someone in my family. Okay, they have all kinds of ways to do things to kind of discourage me from texting people. And I have a condition that makes it so I can't talk on the phone. And I was hacked so heavily on Facebook and Tinder that I stopped going on those sites and all dating sites. They really cracked down on communications, and they've told people in this town that they're not supposed to talk to me. Okay, I'm someone with no criminal record. I'm not in any terrorist organization. I have no ties to Iran or China or Russia or North Korea or any other nation that's considered a serious threat to America. In fact, I don't have any ties to any other nations other than family members in Nigeria who are Christians. Okay? I mean, what the hell, right? There's whites and Jews in my family. And on my mom's side of the family, some of the first people who came here, I think it's been a while, but I think it was on the Mayflower, were members of my my family, right, on my mom's side. And I'm related to Daniel Boone, and she said that to me before, and I think that my grandma might have said that as well. She passed away maybe like 4 years ago or something. I forget. It's my grandma on my mom's side, my mother's mother. And my grandfather fought in World War II, and I believe my great-grandfather was in some kind of military band. So there is no evidence that I am magically the enemy of America. I'm mad at America like a lot of people are, right? Liberals typically, leftists typically are angry at America. Right-wing people typically think, that, some other nation, globalists or immigrants, are making, America worse or something. According to them, not me, mind you. They typically think that, and they blame the government for not effectively managing it, what have you. You see, these people are silent on the issue of homelessness, right? Why aren't they holding Trump to account on homelessness? And again, this video is not political, but it's a good question. Where politics are clearly social issues, like racism and religion and constitutional rights, okay, it's something that somebody should discuss, whether or not they're trying to avoid politics like I am. But because of the lack of a solid response to homelessness and crime in America, okay, it forces me to speak on this to some degree and to start holding various politicians and political parties responsible, especially the Democratic and Republican parties. Donald Trump has been the president for 2 months and 9 days? And still no executive order on homelessness. He did say something about increasing funding for crime, and that should be a good thing. I mean, there's other concerns here about human rights, civil rights, right? There's concerns. But the real reason I made this video was something I thought of about a rapper named Scarface. And rappers often say things that are profound, believe it or not, for those of you who do not listen to rap music. I'm not saying you should listen to rap music. Because of my condition, I cannot listen to basically any music, at least at times. When I go to the store, sometimes the people allow me to listen to the music without having a headache or something. It's a story for another day. There's various technologies at play here, and I probably would hesitate to admit that there's technologies at play here because they're trying to play me out as crazy historically. Okay, but I have 23 witnesses on record to psychological operations against me, which involve government personnel, and there's the Havana syndrome, and these technologies have patents, and most people these days, whether they admit it or not, they know that there's technologies being used on political dissidents. That's a very controversial issue. There's a bunch of organized rapists who don't want people to admit that. There are millions of people in this country who organize for rape. That's why there's a code of silence in both the military and law enforcement. The FBI, CIA, police, there's codes of silence. Why are all these people maintaining the codes of silence for the most part? COs in penitentiaries, various officers in county jail. Why is that? If there isn't a massive conspiracy, why is there a code of silence? Why do companies like BlackRock own so many things if there isn't a massive conspiracy? So Scarface said, in this world we live together and have been divided by these chalk lines. And believe it or not, I used to switch up those words, as I did so often with so many rap songs, to make it even hit home even more. I said, in this world we love each other, but have been divided by these chalk lines. Now, to some degree, that isn't true, right? You people don't really love each other, and you don't really love me. But I said it nonetheless because where it is true, and where it's kind of true, with the beat of the song, with the way he said it, and the way I changed the words, the way I talk, the way I rap and sing, and I don't sing very well, mind you. But I am one incredible rapper, believe it or not. You know, in terms of kind of spoken word style, kind of poetic style that I've had. And they changed my songs and messed them up. And some of them, they were lousy to begin with, but some of them were some of the best songs you would ever hear in your life. Probably the best. Almost certainly. Certainly look at it in terms of what is my motivating force and so on and so forth. Very potent, poetic songs. Very deep and profound. Very heartfelt, sincere, authentic, genuine. Very potent. He also said some brothers, right? You know, he's the N-word, what have you, with the AS instead of the ERS. Some brothers rather be like Mike. And he said that he'd rather be like Christ. Because at the end, I want to see bright light. So should people rather be like Christ? Or should they let racial and political barriers, should they let greed and jealousy prevent their children from wanting to be like Christ? What would Jesus do? Or what would the greedy do? Or what would corporate America do? What would the people who are persecuting Jesus do? What would Herod do? What would Caiaphas and Pilate and Judas? The Pharisees and the Sanhedrin. You want your children to look up to them and not me. Partially because we've been divided by these chalk lines, but mostly because you as a people, as a group, as a planet, have allowed them to divide us by these chalk lines and in other ways. In this world, so many people do not want the living Christ to date their daughters. So many of them are Christians, Muslims, and Jews. If you do not accept me as the Messiah, if you did not and do not, which you do not, or else you would rally to me. Why didn't you accept me as the most righteous person that ever lived? Or at least an extremely righteous person, or a righteous person. You don't accept me. Because in your hearts, you prefer the path of Judas and Caiaphas. And you have allowed wickedness to be your spirit. When Isaiah the prophet said in Isaiah 30 verse 30, that the Lord will cause people to hear his majestic voice, his majestic actions. We know it's actions because of Psalm 19. And will make them see his arm coming down with raging anger and consuming fire, with cloud burst, thunderstorm, and hail. Why? Because wickedness burns like a fire. Why? Because the wrath of the Lord is aimed at the wicked. Why cloud burst? Because I am And you'll see me at the right hand of the Mighty One, coming on the clouds of heaven, coming in that spirit that I was in when I struck at world record speed with all my heart, with all my broken heart, with all my full heart, oh, with all my wholesome heart, with all my sincere and sensitive heart, with all my love for God, with all my righteous indignation. Why thunderstorm and hail? Because the storm of the Lord bursts out, it breaks forth, it comes down on the heads of the wicked. And hail will sweep away your refuge, the lie, and water will overthrow and overflow your hiding place. In this world, I yearned to wrap my arms around a beautiful woman that I call my wife, with my own place on a planet worth reproducing. But you have allowed the Satanists to come between us.